Well, this isn't the Matrix. You are Bitcoin. Not a Bitcoin, but the Bitcoin. The very first one ever created. You're floating in an endless void of pure mathematical equations and cryptographic algorithms. It's January 3rd, 2009, and you've just experienced what can only be described as digital birth. One moment you didn't exist, and now suddenly you're here, conscious. Made entirely of ones and zeros, yet somehow aware of your own existence. Your creator, a mysterious figure calling himself Satoshi Nakamoto, has just brought you to life through something called the Genesis block. You feel like you're constructed from the most elegant mathematics ever conceived, yet you're worth exactly nothing. $0 and 0 cents. Talk about starting from the bottom. Your first home is a digital wallet belonging to Hal Finney, a cryptographer who's treating you like you're some kind of revolutionary technology that will reshape civilization itself. He keeps staring at his computer screen, refreshing your transaction history with the excitement of a kid on Christmas morning. You think he might be overselling things a bit. After all, you're just some fancy computer code that can hop between digital wallets. But, as you're about to discover, you're not just any code. You're about to become the most controversial, most misunderstood, and most transformative financial instrument in human history. And trust us, the ride is going to be absolutely insane. It's May 22nd, 2010, and you're about to make history. A programmer named Laszlo Hanyecz just traded 10,000 of your siblings for 2 Papa John's pizzas worth $25. You watch in digital horror as your family gets exchanged for melted cheese and pepperoni. The math is brutal. Each Bitcoin is worth about $0.0025. You're literally worth less than a penny. Your current owner barely checks his wallet. You sit there in digital storage watching through his screen as early cryptocurrency forums debate whether Bitcoin represents the future of money or just an elaborate computer science experiment. The forums are filled with programmers arguing about Byzantine fault tolerance and proof-of-work consensus. You still don't understand why everyone's making such a big deal about Bitcoin. By late 2010, Bitcoin is worth about 30 cents. It's not exactly retirement money, but hey, you're moving up in the world. You're starting to notice that Bitcoin attracts a very specific type of person: tech enthusiasts, libertarians, and people who really don't trust the government with their money. Your blockchain, basically Bitcoin's permanent, unchangeable record book, grows longer every day as more people start mining and trading Bitcoin. But there's a problem. Whenever someone tries to explain what Bitcoin is, they sound completely insane. It's digital money secured by cryptographic proof on a distributed ledger. Yeah, good luck explaining Bitcoin to anyone's grandmother. 2011 brings Bitcoin's first major controversy. You discover that people are using Bitcoin to buy things on the Silk Road, an online marketplace for items that would make law enforcement very interested. Suddenly, Bitcoin isn't just experimental digital currency. Bitcoin has become the preferred payment method for activities that definitely aren't legal. Bitcoin's value jumps to $30, but you can't shake the feeling that this Bitcoin popularity isn't what Satoshi had in mind. Bitcoin was supposed to be the future of legitimate finance, not the backbone of digital black markets. But, hey, any publicity is good publicity for Bitcoin, right? Forbes writes about Bitcoin. Then TechCrunch discovers Bitcoin. Then the mainstream media realizes Bitcoin exists, and suddenly everyone's trying to understand this Bitcoin thing. Most explanations about Bitcoin are hilariously wrong, but you're not complaining. Bitcoin needs all the attention it can get. Bitcoin's value hits $266 before crashing back down to $2. Welcome to Bitcoin volatility, something that will become Bitcoin's most defining characteristic. You're starting to realize that Bitcoin might be the most emotionally unstable currency ever created. Mt. Gox becomes the primary exchange for trading Bitcoin. Here's the funny part. It's run by someone who originally created the platform for trading magic, the Gathering cards. This should have been a massive red flag for Bitcoin, but everyone's too excited about Bitcoin's rising price to notice. Bitcoin hits $17 and everyone thinks Bitcoin is going straight to the moon. You're starting to feel pretty good about Bitcoin's prospects. Sure, Bitcoin is volatile and confusing, but people are finally taking Bitcoin seriously as an investment opportunity. March 2013 changes everything for Bitcoin. Cyprus announces they're going to tax bank deposits to fund a government bailout, and suddenly everyone's looking for alternatives to traditional banking. Bitcoin's price explodes from $47 to over $200 in just weeks. For the first time, Bitcoin is not just a curiosity for computer programmers. Bitcoin has become a legitimate store of value for people who don't trust their government. You're finally starting to understand what Satoshi meant about Bitcoin being peer-to-peer electronic cash. Bitcoin's price hits $1,176 in November 2013. Suddenly, everyone from your neighbor's cousin to financial news anchors is talking about Bitcoin. Congressional hearings are being held about Bitcoin regulation. Bitcoin is simultaneously thrilling and terrifying the entire financial establishment. But with Bitcoin's recognition comes scrutiny. Regulators are trying to figure out what Bitcoin actually is. Currency, commodity, security, investment. Bitcoin's legal status is about as clear as mud. Bitcoin's price hits $1,176 in November 2013. Suddenly, everyone from your neighbor's cousin to financial news anchors is talking about Bitcoin. Congressional hearings are being held about Bitcoin regulation. Bitcoin is simultaneously thrilling and terrifying the entire financial establishment. But with Bitcoin's recognition comes scrutiny. Regulators are trying to figure out what Bitcoin actually is. Currency, commodity, security, investment. Bitcoin's legal status is about as clear as mud. February 2014. You wake up one morning to discover that Mt. Gox, the exchange handling 70% of all Bitcoin transactions, has lost 744,000 Bitcoin. Just lost them. Bitcoin, worth hundreds of millions of dollars, vanished into the digital void. Bitcoin's price crashes from over $800 to under $300. The headlines are devastating. Bitcoin exchange Mt. Gox files for bankruptcy. Bitcoin suffers major security breach. Is this the end of Bitcoin? You're learning that being decentralized doesn't protect Bitcoin from good old-fashioned human incompetence. 2014 and 2015 are rough years for Bitcoin. Bitcoin's price languishes around $200 to $400. The media has moved on from Bitcoin to the next shiny object. The only people still talking about Bitcoin are true believers and people who bought Bitcoin at the peak and are now down 70%. You experience something Bitcoin has never felt before: irrelevance. Forums that used to buzz with excitement about Bitcoin's future are now full of arguments about Bitcoin technical improvements and complaints about Bitcoin's slow transaction times. You're learning that revolutionary technology like Bitcoin is only exciting until it becomes ordinary. Bitcoin's blockchain is getting crowded. Bitcoin transaction fees are rising because there's limited space in each Bitcoin block. People are arguing about something called Bitcoin block size, essentially how much data Bitcoin can process at once. The debate gets so heated that it threatens to split Bitcoin's entire community. You're discovering that being decentralized means that every major Bitcoin decision requires consensus from thousands of people who rarely agree on anything about Bitcoin. It's like trying to get 10,000 Bitcoin enthusiasts to agree on where to go for dinner. July 2016 brings Bitcoin's second halving, an event where the reward for mining new Bitcoin gets cut in half. Satoshi programmed this Bitcoin feature to happen every 4 years to control Bitcoin inflation. It's like having your Bitcoin salary automatically reduced, but somehow this makes Bitcoin more valuable. Economic scarcity is weird for Bitcoin. The harder Bitcoin becomes to obtain, the more people want Bitcoin. Bitcoin's price starts climbing from $400 toward $800. You're beginning to understand why people call Bitcoin digital gold. 2017 is when things get really crazy for Bitcoin. Major companies start accepting Bitcoin as payment. Japan recognizes Bitcoin as legal currency. Suddenly, Bitcoin isn't just a fringe experiment. Bitcoin is a legitimate financial instrument. Bitcoin's price breaks through $1,000, then $2,000, then $5,000. Each Bitcoin milestone brings more attention, more investors, and more Bitcoin volatility. Bitcoin is simultaneously the most exciting and most terrifying investment anyone's ever seen. Everyone wants to create their own version of Bitcoin. Initial coin offerings pop up daily, promising to be the next Bitcoin. Most are obvious scams, but people throw money at them anyway because Bitcoin's success has made everyone believe that any digital token might become the next Bitcoin. You feel like Bitcoin is the original Pokemon card watching people trade increasingly ridiculous Bitcoin knockoffs. Flattering for Bitcoin, but also concerning that Bitcoin's success has inspired so much creativity. Bitcoin's price hits $10,000, then $15,000. Your great-aunt Martha is asking how to buy Bitcoin at Thanksgiving dinner. People are taking out second mortgages to invest in Bitcoin. Taxi drivers are giving Bitcoin tips to passengers. Bitcoin is experiencing every asset bubble's most dangerous phase, when ordinary people who don't understand Bitcoin technology are pouring their life savings into Bitcoin because Bitcoin always goes up. You've seen this Bitcoin story before. It never ends well. December 17, 2017. Bitcoin's price hits $19,783.36. Bitcoin is worth more than the annual median household income in America. People are literally selling everything they own to buy Bitcoin. But something feels wrong about Bitcoin. Bitcoin transaction fees are over $50. Bitcoin's network is so congested that Bitcoin transactions take hours to confirm. People aren't using Bitcoin as currency anymore. They're just holding Bitcoin hoping Bitcoin's price goes higher. Bitcoin has become everything Bitcoin was supposed to be, a speculative asset instead of a medium of exchange. Reality hits Bitcoin like a freight train made of economic fundamentals. Bitcoin's price crashes from nearly $20,000 to $3,200 in 1 year. The headlines are even more brutal than after Mt. Gox. Bitcoin bubble bursts. Bitcoin market loses 80% of value. The death of Bitcoin. People who bought Bitcoin at $18,000 are now underwater by $15,000. Bitcoin forums that used to celebrate Bitcoin's every price increase are now full of people sharing suicide prevention hotlines. You're learning that being someone's Bitcoin retirement plan is a heavy responsibility. The ICO projects that promise to revolutionize everything beyond Bitcoin have mostly disappeared or turned out to be elaborate Bitcoin scams. Entire fortunes built on Bitcoin speculation have evaporated overnight. You're watching people learn expensive lessons about the difference between Bitcoin investing and Bitcoin gambling. But here's the Bitcoin twist. Despite Bitcoin's price crash, Bitcoin's underlying network keeps running perfectly. Every 10 minutes, like clockwork, a new Bitcoin block is added to Bitcoin's blockchain. Bitcoin transactions still clear. Bitcoin's mathematics still work. Bitcoin's technology hasn't changed. Only human psychology about Bitcoin has changed. March 2020 brings the COVID-19 pandemic and something unprecedented for Bitcoin. Governments worldwide print trillions of dollars to stimulate their economies. Suddenly, Bitcoin's finite supply of 21 million coins looks pretty attractive compared to currencies that central banks can print infinitely. Tesla buys $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. MicroStrategy converts their entire treasury to Bitcoin. Major banks start offering Bitcoin custody services. PayPal allows customers to buy and sell Bitcoin directly through their app. Bitcoin's price climbs past Bitcoin's previous all-time high and keeps going. $65,000 for Bitcoin. Bitcoin isn't just a speculative asset anymore. Bitcoin is digital property, a hedge against monetary inflation, a new asset class that pension funds and sovereign wealth funds are adding to their Bitcoin portfolios. But the biggest revelation isn't about Bitcoin's price, it's about Bitcoin's purpose. You realize Bitcoin was never really meant to replace credit cards or compete with Visa for everyday transactions. Bitcoin's true value is as a digital store of wealth that can't be confiscated, inflated away, or controlled by any government or corporation. Bitcoin isn't trying to help the people buy coffee more efficiently. Bitcoin is helping people preserve purchasing power across decades in an era when traditional savings accounts pay 0.01% interest while inflation runs at 7% annually. Today, as Bitcoin reflects on its journey from worthless computer code to a trillion-dollar asset class, you understand something profound about money and human nature. Every previous form of money, shells, gold, paper currency, has eventually been controlled or manipulated by those in power. Bitcoin is the first money in human history that exists purely according to mathematical rules that no one can change about Bitcoin. Bitcoin's volatility, which everyone complains about, is actually a Bitcoin feature, not a bug. Bitcoin represents price discovery in real time for what truly decentralized, censorship-resistant money should be worth. Traditional currencies only seem stable because their volatility is hidden behind layers of government intervention, monetary policy, and debt financing that pushes the consequences into the future. The mystery that drove Bitcoin is an entire story. Why people got so excited about internet money finally makes sense. Bitcoin isn't just currency or commodity or investment. Bitcoin is a completely new form of property that exists in cyberspace, governed by cryptographic proof rather than legal systems or military force. Bitcoin's journey taught everyone involved expensive lessons about the difference between price and value, speculation and investment, technology and hype. The people who understood Bitcoin's true purpose, those who bought Bitcoin during the crashes, and held Bitcoin through the bubbles, were rewarded not just financially, but with a deeper understanding of how money actually works. Bitcoin has helped millions of people around the world preserve wealth during currency crises, send money across borders without permission from banks, and opt out of monetary systems they don't trust. Bitcoin has also helped millions of other people learn why they should never invest more than they can afford to lose in assets they don't understand, especially Bitcoin. The biggest irony of Bitcoin's existence is that Bitcoin's creator, Satoshi Nakamoto, disappeared before seeing Bitcoin become everything he envisioned and more. His anonymous gift to humanity, Bitcoin, is now worth over $1 trillion, and no one knows who he really was or whether he's still alive to see Bitcoin change the world. As Bitcoin continues growing and evolving, adding new layers of functionality through Lightning Network and smart contracts, Bitcoin is constantly reminded that Bitcoin is not just code or currency. Bitcoin is a philosophy made manifest. The philosophy that individuals should control their own money without requiring permission from institutions that may not have their best interests at heart. So, here's the real question for everyone watching. In a world where governments can print unlimited money, where banks can freeze accounts without warning, and where financial surveillance is becoming the norm, what is true financial freedom actually worth? And what role should Bitcoin play in that freedom? If this journey through the life of Bitcoin helped you understand something new about money, technology, or human nature, smash that like button and subscribe for more financial adventures told from perspectives you never expected. And here's the most important part. Share this video with someone who still thinks Bitcoin is just fake internet money. They might just discover that the fakest thing about money is believing that pieces of paper are inherently more real than mathematical proof like Bitcoin. The future of money is being written in code, one Bitcoin block at a time. Make sure you understand Bitcoin's story before the final chapter gets published.